Hi everybody, happy Monday, welcome. I am going to talk today about manifesting versus allowing. I've mentioned a few times that I'm going to have this conversation at some point in time, and a number of you were quite excited for me to have it. So let's talk about manifesting versus, and I'm only saying versus because I can't think of a better way to do it. Let's just compare the two and let's see which one sits better with you. Let's see which one resonates. Okay. So hi everyone. Lovely to have you here. If you are new, my name is Sabina and I'm happy to have you here. For everybody who's normally here, thanks for showing up. Thanks for joining in the conversation. Put comments and questions anytime in the chat box. So I want to talk to you about manifesting and allowing. What's the difference? So for a really long time, and look, for some people not a really long time, for me a long time, for a good decade, I've been questioning manifesting. Is it right? It's never really sat right with me. Okay, so I would have come across it like most of you. I would have learnt about it, read about it, heard about it, felt drawn to it in some ways. But there was always something about being detailed and being specific that just didn't quite resonate with me. And I started talking about it kind of quietly in a little quiet voice because everyone I knew was really into it. And so I didn't want to bag the work they were doing. I didn't want to kind of openly speak about something that most of the people I knew were really into, and it was also a big part of their work, right? So I spoke about it quietly, and then I wrote about it in my book, and that kind of outed me a little bit. And then I have spoken about it a little bit more, and it hasn't really caught any traction in terms of conversation. However, recently I heard Laurie Ladd mention it, basically in kind of the way that I have been saying it. And the response to that was like, oh my God, this is genius, right? Which just let me realize, okay, people are ready to hear this. Okay, people are ready to hear this. The collective is ready to hear this. And so I'm excited about this. So here's the thing with manifesting. And the fact that it's very specific and very detail orientated. That's the part that's never really sat right with me. I would have done it like most people at some point. I would have written down goals or affirmations and been really specific and, you know, what I wanted to experience and what I wanted to draw in. You know how they kind of teach us like, okay, so what kind of partner do you want? Get really specific. And I'm like, oh, really? You know, how much money do you want? How many clients do you want to see? You know, what do you want your business to look like? And, you know, what do you want to draw into your life? Get really specific so the universe knows what you want. It's a couple of issues that it's just not resonated with me for these two reasons. One, it's as though someone's hearing you and then delivering the treats, delivering the kind of rewards to the people. And I've never really loved that aspect of it. And I've often spoken about the fact that there is no one hearing you. There is no one listening. There isn't the panel that kind of fly around and go, oh, Jenny's asked for 10 clients a week. Give her those 10 clients. Oh, so-and-so's asked for this. You know, so-and-so's asked for a partner that looks like this. Right, send one their way. It doesn't work like that. It works on energetics. It works on values. It works on priorities. It works on focus. And the more detailed that we are in what we want, when we want it, how we want it to show up, and who we want to bring it, the more we are really only recreating the past. So this is the other part that has never resonated with me about manifesting. Manifesting can only be of the ego. If you haven't heard me talk about the ego before, if you are new here and you go, what do you mean by the ego? I mean it from a spiritual perspective. I mean it from a human perspective as well. So yes, there's a fake scam account. Yeah. So just, I think there's about 1,000 something followers on that account. And I don't know about, like, there's only a few posts from me. So just block them and report them, please. So if we are manifesting very specifically, right? Let's talk money. It's probably the main thing people focus on, money or love. Let's just talk money. I now want this amount of money a week, or I now want this amount of money in my bank account. I now want to be able to save this amount per la 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 la, right? And get really specific in how it turns up. You can only ego. Okay. The detail speaks to ego, because that's what ego loves to work in. Ego needs to know, how is it going to show up? When is it going to show up? What's it going to look like? How much do I want? It always the detail. The control freak is the ego. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Sorry, lost myself there for a minute. What do I mean when I mean ego? The human aspect of your mind, the part of us that we all have that allows this thing called life to work. And it is the least evolved part of us. And that is the part that loves anything detail orientated. That is the part that loves to know what's going to happen. What does this mean? Where am I going to? What will I encounter when I get there? Like, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And just kind of choose through life like a Pac-Man in terms of, now I want this, and now I want this, and now I want this, and now I want this. Now, don't go to the extreme of that, which is also ego, which would then say, let's just like forget all material things. And does it mean we shouldn't want anything? No. But what I'm saying is, why manifesting has never resonated with me is because anytime we're encouraged to be really detail orientated and really specific in how we want something to show up, in what exactly we want, exactly, the how, the what, the why, the who, we are triggering our ego. Our ego goes, woo, brilliant, beautiful. Let's obsess, let's focus, let's obsess. And then what happens is you miss any other way that it could show up, because you can only use that from because ego is so constrained by the past, it will only see what it expects to see. It thinks you can only achieve what you've achieved in the past. It will have such a ceiling on what you think you're going to receive. You will only ever be bringing the past into the present, and that will really kind of minimize how something can show up for you. Is this making sense? Let me know. Everyone who's here, let me know if I'm making sense. It's a big topic, and I think I'm trying to put it into a couple of sentences, and so let me know whether it's making sense. Why I do not love manifesting. And the other way I really encountered kind of that detail specific aspect of creating something was in kinesiology. When I was learning kinesiology, we were taught SMART goals, right? I don't even remember exactly what SMART stands for. Many of you will know. So it's like specific, measurable, is it achievable, time, and something else I think is in there. So, you have to be really specific. From the time I was taught that, I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that. Where's the space to grow in that? Where's the evolution in that? If I'm so specific on how it's allowed to arrive and what it's meant to look like, I'm controlling life so much. I'm like taking this massive container, like imagine like a massive beam of light and well-being and abundance and flow, right? Don't demonize the word abundance just because you've heard it used in certain ways. Just a whole beam of receiving that I could get, and I'm narrowing it down to like the trickle from like the smallest hoses, because No, it has to come on a Tuesday at 4 o'clock and it has to be this amount. And no, love I can only be in my ideal relationship if he looks like this, or if she is this tall, or if he has this job, or if she, wants to have these children that we're going to name them this. Like, what kind of insanity? And can you see that this would be a realm that's really easy to manipulate you into staying a certain way, into kind of like just repeating, either kind of having all these desires that aren't really working for you, and so you're not really receiving what you want to receive, and so you become disheartened and you start to think, I mustn't be like very powerful, or I mustn't be doing this right, or I mustn't be ready to receive it, or any of those things. When really, if we move into allowing, which is kind of the more grown-up version, the thing that I hope we are evolving into being ready for, allowing is where I feel into what I want to experience. I focus on kind of the values and the priorities that I would like to draw to me. I don't get too specific, and I allow perfection to unfold. I allow it to work out perfectly. So now I'm really kind of working and aligning with my higher self, with source, with God, with flow, with whatever you want to call it, whatever resonates with you. And I am not allowing my humanness, I'm not allowing my limitation, I'm not allowing my own beliefs of what I could and what I couldn't and how things come and what happens. And I'm just like really opening the doors to like a massive portal of creativity. And I'm allowing life to work through me. I'm allowing life to bring me. I'm allowing the abundant kind of energy that I'm living in. I'm allowing that full beam living, right? Hello, Mr. Cookson. I'm allowing that full beam living because I'm no longer kind of swimming around in the specifics and the details of, what it's going to look like, when it's going to come. Because with that comes a whole heap of limitations. I can't actually go beyond what I really expect. You can put a crazy figure on a piece of paper and say, I'm going to have this by the end of the year, but you know what? You're not. You're not going to have that by the end of the year. If you have a whole heap of beliefs that tell you that you're not going to have that, and if you have a whole heap of things within you that say, that's how, like, when you can't imagine how that will come, then just let it come perfectly, however it's going to show up. Okay, any questions? Any comments? Let me know whether this is making sense. I've highlighted a couple of things I wrote. So this I've spoken about in chapter 9, which is called Creating New Outcomes. Because I talked about the fact that you can only create new outcomes when you're able to clear the past and when you're able to move beyond the ego. So if you allow ego to do the creating, which it is my opinion that is what we're doing if we're manifesting. If you allow ego to do the creating, the decision making and the visioning, you won't be able to move beyond perceptions of the past to consciously create new outcomes. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Do you have any questions on that aspect? In the book, I then talk about how we came to live where we currently live and how we never would have lived in this place. I couldn't have manifested it because it was so many of the things I didn't realize I wanted. But because I allowed the perfect place to just kind of find us, it did. So as I allow my life to unfold, as I move through life with open hands and a big heap of trust, it just gets better and better. it's not, now that is not a passive process, right? So this isn't about you just go, oh, whatever. It's about getting actually really clear on what are my values? What are my priorities? What do I want more of? I want more freedom. Bring me that. I want more space. Bring me that. I literally, the only things I had with this house was I don't remember exactly, but I know one of my things was I want green. So we used to live in a townhouse in Parkdale. It was nice enough, but it was a townhouse. And in the back of that was a unit that I rented and that I worked from. That was my clinic space. And in the waiting area were 3 little windows, like just kind of like, you know, at about sort of kind of head height, 3 little windows next to each other to get privacy, sort of, so that you still kind of had privacy from the neighbours. And outside those 3 windows was just green. There was just plants outside them. So I was like, I love that green. And I would come into that clinic every day and I would look at that and think, I love just seeing green outside my windows. So one of my things was, I want more green. I want more green. We moved up here because this is where I used to come hiking and I loved it. And so each time I came up, my energy stayed a little bit more in me stayed, and it was getting harder and harder to come back off the mountain. And I was like, I want to be in the mountain. I want to be able to hike much closer to where I live. So what do I end up? I end up in a house that has a walking track next to it. I end up, there's literally all you can see is green out of every single window in the house. We have literally just over an acre of green. Okay, did I know I wanted that? No. Did I manifest that? No, because I was actually intent when I was really in the detail of actually living on the other side of the mountain. Why? Because that's what I knew. Because they are the suburbs that I knew. But every time we looked, we could not find a place we could afford. And our budget was going up and up and up to houses that were not perfect. Because I didn't even know of the suburb that we now live in. And it wasn't until I let it go. It wasn't until I fully let it go and you know what? This is what I want, and bring it to me in whatever way it looks like, into whatever. And that is the allowing. That is the difference between allowing. So as I allow my life to unfold, as I move through life with open hands and a big heap of trust, it just gets better and better. It's not that there are no challenges. It's just that even the challenges are perfect in terms of the opportunities they bring. As they allow me to grow more and more genuinely into my power. So instead of me living life like this, going, I need to meet a guy that's this tall and weighs this much and has this surname and wants to, you know, it's like, and then we're going to live in this house and our kids are going to go to this school and we're going to go to holidays here and I'm going to have this much money in the bank by the end of the year. What for? What for? Do you even know what you want to do with the money that you want to attract to you? Like, what for? It's just because the detail and more detailed and more detailed, and you've been taught, and I have a feeling that there's a lot behind it that's manipulated. I'm not saying the people that are teaching it to you, I'm not saying the people that are talking about it. I'm saying that in this matrix, in this world that is created by ego for ego, nothing is going to keep you stuck in ego more than being very, very specific and very, very detail orientated. Because ego loves it. And why do you need that money? And then it would say, well, okay, be very specific what you want to use it for. I need to use this money because I want to blah, blah, blah. Why? Why do you want the things you want? Why does it have to be this color house? And why does your partner have to have this color hair? And why do your kids have to be this when they grow up? And why do you have to live specifically in this house, in this street, with this person? And why? All of that is created from a space of madness almost, a space of not enough, not enough, not enough. And if I have this, then I'll be happy. And if I have this, then I'll be happy. And I'm not saying let go completely of your desire for anything. I'm saying just be in who you really are and allow the world to kind of allow yourself to expand into situations and allow the world to bring you the perfect set of circumstances that allows you to be who you are. And then you will be able to grow in ways you never would have imagined. We never would have picked this property, and yet it has been perfect in a million different ways. It was way smaller than what I wanted in terms of house size. It was smaller than where we came from, and I had actually wanted bigger than where we came from. I wanted the quintessential Hills home. I wanted weatherboard, I wanted double story, I wanted that kind of country charm, all of that kind of stuff. We live in a 1-floor brick veneer. It has been smaller and it has been perfect because literally 2 years after moving in, I became so unwell that I could barely make my way from one end of it to the other. Imagine if I would have had to cope with stairs. It has been perfect. The actual property is way bigger than what we wanted, and it has been perfect. It has inspired work from me. It has inspired ideas. It has just helped me to grow exponentially in a way that if I would have had a magic way to create what I wanted, if I would have been able to create the exact perfect house and step into it, it would not have been as perfect as what this house is. It would not have felt as good as what it has felt to live here, even though it has been kind of scary at times in terms of how much I've had to grow as a result of that. Let me know how this resonates with you. Let me know what questions that you have. Let me know how you feel about allowing as opposed to manifesting. How have you always felt about manifesting and the detail and the specifics of it? Aren't we all trying to let go of disordered attachments so that our lives will manifest the boundless love and generosity of our Lord? I don't know that we're all trying to do anything because we're all quite different, I suppose, in the semantics of it. But yeah, ideally, I mean, this is where I love the allowing, because you can allow source to flow through you. You can allow source for sure to use your life. You can see yourself as a portal. You can see yourself as a channel. You can be in communion and in connection with your higher self that isn't like as clouded by where you are. The thing with where we currently are is we so often don't know the bigger picture. We are just dealing with what's right in front of us. And so what we want today is not necessarily what we want in a year's time or what we want in 2 years' time. And when we look back, I mean, how often have you looked back and thought that turned out perfectly, right? I didn't think it was what I wanted, but it turned out perfectly. That has happened just countless amounts of times in my life. And that is when you kind of trust in perfection to unfold. And the other thing that if perfection is something that triggers you, I talk about this in the book too. If perfection is something that triggers you, and I think a lot of women in particular can get triggered, like when I'm working with clients and they'll say, I don't like the use of the word perfection because I'm like recovering from perfection. I always remind you, perfection is not the thing that you bring. You don't create the perfection. Perfection is what you allow. Okay? Perfection exists and you allow it. You allow it. And that is what allowing is as opposed to manifesting. Manifesting is, I need to create the perfection. Allowing is realizing that the perfection will be created for you, through you. The perfection exists. And it is a matter of you allowing it to unfold, right? So the more that you can kind of loosen that grip Remember, if you're thinking about a massive, great big beam of just abundance and light and flow, you can allow it by going, I don't know what this means. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I know it'll play out perfectly because I'm focused on my values and my priorities, and I'm open to receiving more and more of that. And I'm not controlling what it's going to look like. Okay? Melissa, I remember a few months back you talking about manifesting an ego and thought it was very interesting and never would have thought of linking them, but it makes complete sense. Yes. I'm glad that makes sense to you. And I think, especially because you've been here, listening to me talking about ego, you know what I mean when I say ego. And it really does just trigger it beautifully. Like ego's going to go, oh, brilliant. I can obsess and I can focus, and then you're walking along and all of the perfect things, it's like the woman that says, right, I want to have this amount of children, but you're not falling pregnant, but I want to be a mother. But here's a man with some children. Oh, no. Because I want to have kids. It's like, well, here's the opportunity to be a mother, right? Or here's the opportunity to be that, or here's the opportunity to expand into that. But because it doesn't look the way you want it to look, you're actually rejecting it. You're actually rejecting the very thing you think you want, or you say you want, because it doesn't look exactly how you want it, because it didn't arrive in a box with blue wrapping paper on a Tuesday. You're going to go, no, that's not it. That red box that arrived on a Friday is not it. Because that's not what my vision board looks like. Because that's not how I've been manifesting it. Can you see how limited and small that is, that approach to life is? When you've been literally put into the most amazing experience and you're going, no, it has to be like this. And does it also make sense that you can only ever use your perspective of the past, of how it would arrive, of what it would look like, of what kind of partner you would have, of where you might live? It's going to be so limited in things that you've seen or things that you've heard or things that you think that you're entitled to or things that you think you can actually have in your life. And this is not necessarily about having more. Don't get caught in that aspect of it. Yes, you can have more. It's not about the having more. It's about being more. It's about each situation can be far more expansive in its perfection than if you control it and go, it has to look like this. Okay? I've been needing to make a decision for the past month on which job to choose. I've been trying to allow my instinct to guide me, which is best for me, but I haven't had a clear decision yet. Okay, so you could, if you haven't had a clear thing on each one, it means they both could be fine. And this is the thing. There are infinite kind of timelines, portals, opportunities, ways of living that could make you very happy, that would make you equally happy. It's like life goes, whatever. Here you go. So if you want to get kind of then more into the depth of it, you could have a look and you could say, okay, which one feels... This is again why it's so important to be clear on what are my values, what are my priorities. Let's say your values are connection as part of community. So then you might look at which job allows me more of that, which job would give me less of that. What if your values is my health and my ability to kind of like keep focus on my physical fitness? Okay, which job allows me to have more of that? Which job will give me less of that? Which thing will move me more towards what I want? Which thing moves me away from what I want? And then it becomes very easy to make decisions in life, because it doesn't have to be, and then you also remember at any point in time, I can change my mind. So if you become clear on what are my priorities, what are my values, then it becomes easy to make decisions. Does that make sense, and is that helpful? So for this, I haven't been manifesting, but nothing is coming through. I've been trying to let it allow, but nothing's happening. But the allowing has already happened. 2 jobs have turned up. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? What would you do if it was an outfit? You go try one on, you go, how does it feel? It feels like this. You go try the other one, how does it feel? It feels like this. Right, that's what I'm going to choose. So you can't step into one and go, okay, I'll do a week here and I'll do a week there. But you can look at them and you can go, how does this one feel? How does this one feel? There has to be something different about them. And there will be one that's more appealing than another. So let me know, Alyssa, in what way, what comes to mind immediately if I say, what's the difference between one of the two that is a value for you? How do they differ in a way that is a value or a priority for you? And the other thing is, like, take the pressure off. Not everything has to be life-altering, life-changing, best job ever, totally on purpose. Oh my God, this is like how I'm going to show up for the world. It can be like, okay, I'm going with this job now because one of my values at the moment is having as much time at home as I can, and this one allows me to be home quicker, or this one allows me to be home more, or this one allows me to work from home, or this one allows me to whatever, right? Another one can be, one of my values is to become like better at finding my voice. This one allows me to do that. This is the one I'm going to take. It's just a step, right? It's not a forever thing. Is that helpful, Alyssa? One is more of a passion, but the other fits in with lifestyle and fitting in with my kids. So you look at, what is my priority? Okay, now that can be a little bit like, you can look at that and you can go, well, my priority should be my children. Let's remove all the shoulds and let's get any kind of judgment out of this before you've even sat with it. Because you being in your passion and you being really aligned with what you do might mean that you, at the end of your working day or on your days off, are a lot more present with your children than you doing something that's easier, right? But you're not as in your passion, and so you're not as filled up by it, right? So which one would help you feel more filled up? Which one would help you, which one feels like it would be like you'd show up more for your kids? Which one feels like you'd have more energy, you'd be more present? Which one, and you can choose that way, right? Does that help? So one is more of a passion, but the other fits in with lifestyle and fitting in with my kids. So which one of those you're going to choose is going to be dependent on the age of your kids. It's going to be dependent on how tired you would be at the end of the day from one as opposed to the other. It's going to be dependent on how much you feel like I being in my passion will actually make me be like a better mother and more present at this point in time. Like, that's how you work through it. And you know, like, this is brilliant. 2 things have shown up and I get to decide which one fits me better for now, right? It doesn't have to be a forever thing. So let me know how that is. And I know there's a few of you that have just joined, but I've been talking about the difference between manifesting and allowing, and why I feel like manifesting is kind of really speaks to the ego. And I feel like we have evolved and grown into the allowing, and that is what we can be doing from now, and that is more of like how we evolve and expand and move beyond the constraints and the past programming and the short-sightedness, and we expand into that full beam. You know, we can really flow in that full beam. I talk about it in one of the chapters of my book, Creating New Outcomes is the name of the chapter. Set the Tone is the book. And I talk about the fact that the saying, the devil's in the detail, so is ego. Ego's in the detail. So yeah, it feels more free. Yeah, it's great. I agree, because I'm not trying to control life. I'm not trying to control it. This is what has to happen. And so then, you know, we're devastated when something doesn't work out the way we thought it would, or we're happy briefly when something does work out the way it does, but we don't have that bigger picture perspective. So I would much rather focus on, and maybe there's a middle road, I don't know. Let me know how you feel about that and what you think about that. Maybe there's a little bit of both. But for me, I'm in my greatest power when I allow perfection to unfold, when I am clear on my values and my priorities, and I focus on that, and I allow life to bring me more of that. And when I kind of live my life with open hands and with trust, and I allow that to unfold perfectly, and then I kind of step into that, and if it starts to feel off, I move. Like nothing's set. You know, ego's the thing that deals in always and never, and you know, that kind of like it's a done deal. Nothing is set. You can constantly course correct. You can constantly shift path. You can constantly go, this doesn't feel right. Step into one job, it doesn't feel right, move into the other. You know, you're constantly evolving and expanding and moving. And then this environment will teach you something that you can then use in this one. You know, and sometimes even the order of something appearing has to happen in the way it happens, because you wouldn't be ready for step 4 until you went through step 1, 2, and 3. And so if you're really specifically manifesting and you're like, no, step 4 is it, and without having this, it's all fallen apart. It's just too tight and structured and way too ego-based. So yeah, so that's any questions, any thoughts from anyone that's here. Like I said, I'm starting to hear bigger accounts talk about it. And so I was like, yay, that's good. That means the collective is ready to hear it. And let's discuss it. Let's put it on the table. Let's be inspired to allow rather than to manifest. Not in a vow of poverty, not in anything material is bad, because that's not the case. You are a physical body having a physical experience, because the material is here for you to enjoy, for you to utilize, and you know, kind of like for you to create and move through life in a physical way, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be physical. You are here to experience the physical, but you don't want to get caught in it. You don't want to get stuck. You don't want to be so specific in your manifesting that you're missing out. You're missing out because it doesn't look the way you thought it would, or it's not arriving. It's too specific. It's too closed-handed. It's too closed off, and it's too like just control freak, kind of like just too controlling of it all, rather than like a full beam life of just being really clear on your priorities, your values, and then you allow perfection to unfold, knowing that you don't have to worry about being perfect. You don't have to worry about knowing which one's perfect. You don't have to worry about creating the perfection. The perfection will be created through you. Perfection is a given. Perfection is a given if you allow it to unfold perfectly. This is why, guaranteed, you look back at your life and you go, oh my God, that was perfect, right? When we really allow that, we can see the perfection. We see it in hindsight. You can really tap into it in like real time. You can tap into that perfection in the present, and you can literally allow it to open up in front of you. And don't worry about stepping into one thing and going, well, I have to get it right. You can step into it and then you can go, this doesn't feel right. It can literally be as easy as trying things on in a change room, which may not be the best example with a group of women because it might trigger the hell out of a lot of you. But, you know, it can literally be like, sit in a chair. No, it's not the chair for me. Get up and go and sit in another chair. Yeah. So if there's no questions, no comments, Alyssa, I hope that's helpful. Yeah. So I will say if this have a listen back, and let me know. If you're listening to the replay, let me know, how do you feel? Manifesting versus allowing. Which one feels more expansive? Which one feels like you're more in full beam life? All right, much love.